stuff, but I'd like to start out to allow maximum time for you guys to ask me the questions you want to ask me, because I know there has been a lot of negative information. Thank you for putting the plug in for the Herald. I'm sorry. And thank you, Ronnie, for inviting me out here, and thank you guys all for being here. I just spoke to the Herald again and asked them to try to be a little bit fair as they go forward and stuff, and of course they promised me, like they every time, that they will and stuff, and they promised me that they'll call me, and they never do, you know, when they put one of these negative ads in there. But I want to go back and just give you a quick overview of how this got started. About 2.5 years ago, I was working really hard with my command staff to try to get them pay raises, because they were locked into me as either the undersheriff or sheriff, and our salaries were frozen. And so the county kept saying, well, we're going to go through and give everybody pay raises and key positions. And so they went through their office and did all that. And when it came to the sheriff's office, they didn't do it. And they just kept putting me off and putting me off. And finally, and this has turned out to be a mistake, I asked my command staff to unionize, because it forces them, under being commissioned officers, that the union has to, that the county commissioners have to come to the table and negotiate with them. Unfortunately, what I didn't realize is the command staff would ultimately select the FOP, which has an attorney named Mr. Harvey that is running them. And ultimately what happened is he's representing every single person in the sheriff's office besides me at this point. So you can imagine, I've struggled with accountability now. I've struggled with them enforcing the accountability with their subordinates, all the way down through the ranks. We've had numerous issues that we've had to bring up. So that's kind of what was the backdrop on what started all this. And it's been very difficult for me, because it used to be that you had labor and management, and they're supposed to work very closely together, and usually you can. We've never had those type of issues. But with Mr. Harvey, he has a long reputation throughout the state. I've talked to many chiefs and sheriffs that he represents people in there, and he has a knack for splitting the department up by separating labor and management. And I want to be very clear, if there's labor here and stuff, I have no problem with labor. I pushed to make our deputies the #1 paid deputies in the state for our size county. I believe in that. The problem is when you want labor to take over a sheriff's office, that's when we're getting the problem. That's what we have. We have people that have made those comments to me. I've had command staff. This is an active. They're going to take it over and put their person there where they can control everything. That's not the way this is supposed to be. I'm elected by the people. The people expect me to run the sheriff's office and to run them. So that's kind of what started. And then, in all honesty, I went through a divorce, as you guys are all aware, and I think that's what opened the door for these type of personal attacks that have gone on since then. So with that, I have a bunch of documents over there that will cover all the investigations I've done within the department. I have a bunch that are ongoing right now. I will tell you that I've had some employees recently come to me that feel pressured by their immediate supervisors, because please understand, when you saw deputies saying they have no confidence, they were told to be there by their supervisors. I'm 5 levels removed in the chain of command from them. I don't even see most of them, other than good morning, how was your weekend, or anything like that. They have sergeants, corporal sergeants, lieutenants, commanders that all interact with them day to day. And they've told me that they feel pressured. They feel that my command staff has been very harsh with them in some situations. We've launched an internal investigation. I have HR looking into it now. We have several documents from past employees that have left because of the interactions of some of the command staff. That should be coming out pretty soon. Not that the Herald will report it or whatever, because it doesn't fit the narrative, but just so you know, you can get your hands on it, and I'll make sure that we get it out through different ranks. So with that, I'm going to open it up, because I can stand up here. There's so much stuff to go over that I could spend hours, and I want to be cognizant of all the other people running for office, so they have plenty of time. So I'll open it up and ask you your questions, and yes, if you want to pass those out, it's fantastic. And I'll answer any questions. This is about transparency. You guys are all my boss. I work for you, so don't hesitate to ask me any question that you've heard, rumors. I don't care. I'll address them. So I'll open up with that. Yes, sir.
Dan Deckert, Benton City.
How you doing, Dan? I think I've written to you a few times.
Yes, you have.
Yes.
I appreciate the response too. The big thing that I run into some people this morning, and I told them I was coming out here and you were going to be here, and they said the thing that bothers them was the 12,000 rounds of ammunition that the paper blew up, everybody else,
Right.
blah blah. Would you please clarify what
I
that
will.
whole dog and pony show
First
was?
of all, let me explain to you about our ammunition budget. I always encourage all of our deputies to shoot as much as they can. And they've never been denied any ammunition. We have deputies that shoot all the time, and we have deputies that don't shoot very much at all. I happen to be one that enjoys shooting. I'm an avid shooter. And so I go to the range every chance I get. I lived in Badger Canyon, and if I got up in the morning and the wind wasn't blowing, I would jump over the hill and be there in 5 minutes and shoot. I shoot anywhere from 1,000 rounds to 2,000 rounds in a setting. So it was easier for me to have ammunition in my garage. It was just out of convenience than it was at the station because it's 20 minutes off the way. So it'd take me 40 minutes to go get it. It's convenience. I understand the optics. What they don't tell you in these things is there's probably half the department that has ammunition at their house, in the trunks of their cars, and all that, so convenient, so they can run to the range when they get an opportunity. In fact, a couple of the ones that made the complaint have thousands of rounds at their house. And I'm not saying that's wrong, because if we can't trust deputy sheriffs to have ammunition and to use it as it was intended to do, and especially the sheriff, we got bigger problems in this county than that. I just got to tell you, and stuff like that. I realize the optics. I will not do that again. I'll take the time to run to the station and pick up ammunition and go shoot it. But I can tell you that every round, and you'll see that even when the complaint came in, it was just a veiled complaint. I took the step to immediately, I got up in front of the deputy, walked over, picked up the phone, and called another independent law enforcement agency and asked them to conduct an investigation to make sure everything was above board. It's in those documents back there. You'll see my letter to the sheriff's office over in Franklin County. I asked them to come over. You'll see the conclusion of it, and then you'll see exactly what I was going to do about it so that we make sure that we have transparency and accountability going forward. Does it answer your question, Dan?
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
Is that ammunition inventoried or anything?
Yes, it is.
And where does that happen? Where does the inventory occur?
The
At
inventory
office?
happens by the firearms instructors in the county. Just understand that I set the budget for the ammunition. They do all the ordering. It's approved by a commander. They take what type of ammo and stuff like that. They decide on whether it's 22, 223.
So they knew you had this ammo, that it was inventoried out to you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we have 26 people, all supervisors from the rank of corporal all the way through the sheriff, that can actually come in and check ammunition out because people go say, hey, I need to go to the range, or I didn't qualify, I need to have extra rounds and go shoot. We will going forward, just so that we don't have these awkward questions that will come up that we have to explain and stuff. We'll make sure that we check every single round out. What I find funny is I have a police radio at my house that was out of convenience too, because the command staff came and said, look, we need police radios here and then at our house, because sometimes we respond to our house. And I said, are we too lazy to take our radios home now? And these police radios are about $4,500. They're worth more than the ammunition I had at my house. And so it's just, again, it's out of convenience and stuff. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it just strikes me as funny that they pick on what they want to pick, but it's about supporting an agenda. So.
Who's they?
I have some command staff that made this
So
complaint.
these are people directly underneath you?
Yes,
That are part of the union?
or yes, 1 or 2 levels down as well. Yes. Yes, I can tell you that I've promoted an undersheriff, if you guys have seen, and a lieutenant. The undersheriff I promoted used to be a union president out of the west side. He was a lieutenant before he came over here in this department. And the guy that I promoted to lieutenant was the guy that wrote the letter against me, the deputy. And he got in there, he's been with me for over 2 months, and his words to me the other day was, he goes, I was completely lied to and misled by the union about what's going on here. He goes, there's about 7 people pushing this agenda, and deputies are scared to come forward because they'll be blackballed and retaliated against by their immediate supervisors that are pushing this agenda. We have things in the way to purge that. We'll take care of that in short order. They have pushed a recall, you'll see that, but as Mr. Massey said, he couldn't have said it more elegantly, and no offense to the courts, but the powers and the people. The courts could do anything they want, except they don't have jurisdiction over an independent elected office. And you have to understand, if you saw Sheriff Fortney over there, he just lost his battle in the recall, or lost his appeal in the Supreme Court. But if you take a look at it, the Supreme Court has no authority over the people. So when it comes back, it still has to come back for you guys to look at this and pass judgment on me and my actions and stuff. They can order the recall, which is certainly within their right, but you're the one that ultimately has to say whether that happens or not. So that's an important distinction that Mr. Massey brought up. They go, we can do anything we want here in Benton County so long as it's done the right way. And we follow the law about this. We are a society of law and order. We will follow that. We'll honor what comes out from the Supreme Court. But at the end of the day, it comes back to the voters to make the decision. So please keep that in mind. Yes, sir.
Help me on this part. How come the commissioners aren't supporting you in the lawsuit? Why? So, because my understanding is they lost a lawsuit a year or two ago for wrongful termination. It was like a $1.2 or $1.3 million lawsuit. They were defended through the county.
Right.
So how come you're not getting? How come they're so adamant about not having you be supported through the county?
Because it's abuse of power. What it comes down to is, of course, they're going to take care of. This is costing me $30,000 out of my pocket to stay in office to represent the good citizens of Benton County. They could have easily done that. They should have waited till it went to court, made a decision and stuff. But that's what we do. If we're acting within the scope of our job, and clearly they weren't when they lost that thing, and there's been many other cases if you look back. It's kind of sad, but that is their authority as a county commissioner to look at that and decide whether they're going to do that or not. And they elected not to do it, partially because one of them was heavily engaged in my divorce, and so it's politically motivated. I understand it, I accept it, I don't like it and stuff, but I'm going to move forward and continue to fight the fight.
So all these things that you're accused of, they were while you're working, basically, so where you should be supported if you're working. Where if you're doing it right now, not working,
Right.
Then we can understand you're not being supported. But so you're saying all these cases against you are while you're
The only case that's against me is the ammunition case and stuff, and clearly that's on duty.
Yeah.
I was using ammo as it was prescribed for. Once the commissioners sign over the budget, it's not up to them anymore how it's spent in there and stuff. So they never gave any justification, and I would hope that they would, but that's up to all the citizens to demand that justification too. And if they face recalls, we'll see how quick they support themselves, or if they elect to do the same thing. So,
thanks.
yes, Mr. Mason.
I think it's really important that people understand that if the county office and the person that's there representing the people, okay, and they're getting sued, okay, for their job, and then we as county citizens don't have an opportunity to pay for that defense, to help support due process in this country, and because we're a republic, right? But these three commissioners decided to not defend you or to not pay for that cost and prevent that. So that's almost a way of, we're going to bleed you dry, twist your arms to resign.
Absolutely.
And that's a problem with me. That's a problem for me as a citizen. We have to protect those offices, and we can't have people getting threatened to where if they don't do something, they're going to get bled dry by a lawsuit, and then they have to resign. And then these commissioners, now, if you resign, the party has to pick 3 people to go up in front of those commissioners, and those commissioners appoint the sheriff. Okay? And it's not through an election.
Right. Let me explain
and
that.
I just want to say thank you for not resigning.
Yeah, because I get an email from Beaver almost every day asking me, to resign and stuff like that. So one of the biggest things you can do is replace that gentleman with this fine gentleman back here, because that would be the single greatest thing that can happen to this county and stuff, besides Jerome leaving as well. And stuff. But I want to get back to that. It is important that we understand that process, because a year ago I was approached by the county administrator, and he told me, he goes, "You're the first sheriff we haven't been able to tell what to do and how to do it." And he said, "We would like," he goes, "we'd like to replace you." And I said, "Well, you don't understand how county government works. If you want to control a police chief, go work for a city, because that's what happens. That's what you see in Seattle and everywhere else, where the mayor can tell the police to stand down, to not use less lethal, or to not, to let those buildings burn or whatever. They can't do that here in the sheriff's office. I take my direction from everybody in this audience and stuff, and I assure you that whether it's Black Lives Matter or any other group, they're not going to burn this county down. They're not going to riot. They're not going to loot the place. They're not going to intimidate our people and assault those people and stuff." But we also remember, I'm not beholden to one person like a police chief is. And I have, some of my really good friends are police chiefs. And I'll tell you that that's very troublesome to them, that in these type of crises, that the sheriffs are the ones that need to step up, because they're the ones that cannot be controlled by agendas in city councils and managers and through mayors and stuff. So your point is spot on. So thank you for bringing that up. Yes, sir.
So did you say, are there any charges filed against you right now? You said you had one
There's-
case and this guy.
No, you saw the commissioners grandstanding like they do so often. They said that they were going to write to the attorney general, and I think the month before that they were going to write the legislators to try to change the law to be able to control sheriffs more at the county level. These guys want to control everything, and they're not used to somebody saying, "No, you're not going to do that" to them and stuff. We just need new leadership in there. But I will tell you that I had to do a public information request. They did write a letter to Chief Batista of the Washington State Patrol and asked them to come in and investigate me. I spoke to the Chief Batista. He sent me an email. He will be declining their offer to investigate. There's no intent whatsoever here, and he understands that. This was just them grandstanding because they knew it'd catch the paper and it'd be a headline again, and they would continue down that path. So there is no charges that are filed against me. Yes, sir.
I was just wondering, would you say that Jerome, his negativity toward you is driven by himself, or do you feel, it almost sounded like he feels like he's being pushed to be negative about you?
Yeah, I don't know if he's being pushed because he seems to run the council. Beaver just follows whatever he wants, and Sean does the same thing. So I don't know if he feels like he's being pushed. I will tell you that I've had a good relationship with Jerome, and even if you disagree with the county commissioner, you're still expected for the taxpayers of Benton County to work with them. And you've seen him openly say, "I'm not doing this anymore." But this all started when he went through the divorce. He's actually the one that talked to my wife originally, sat down with Andy, sat in the interview during, the initial conversation, which is highly inappropriate, that you don't have a county commissioner getting involved in a divorce. And ever since then, he's just refused to work with me or say anything, and that's just about as unprofessional as it comes, in my opinion. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just
Okay.
couldn't understand why he got so soured
Yeah.
on you.
Yeah, just look back at the history, and up until last October, we worked on a lot of things, did a lot of good things. I was pushing really hard on the mental health wing that we needed in the jail so desperately and stuff, and ultimately he pushed that away and stuff. At least initially, he was working on it with me, and we worked on some other things in the jail, to work on contracts. He does philosophically disagree with me. I worked with the commissioners that were here before to build that jail so that we had the room for expansion and keep our jail costs down and make sure that for all the cities and for us. And they tell me all the time, we're not in the jail business. And now our jail costs have skyrocketed, so it's a different philosophy. The average daily, it's like a hotel. If it's not full, you're not making money off of it. We paid that whole place off in, I think, 7 years through state and federal contract prisoners, which drastically kept all of our taxpayer, costs down to run that, because jails are expensive. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in there and stuff, and they don't have a clue on how to run it and stuff. So it's going to be problematic. You watch, eventually the numbers will come out, and remember he promised there would be no increase and stuff like that. If you could get to the numbers now, I think you'd be shocked already. So
Thank you.
That did come up too. Accusation was the jails are unsafe and overcrowded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he brought up whistleblowers are part of this, so I appreciate your.
Yeah, let me explain to you about jails. Jerome doesn't know the first thing about a jail and stuff. So when he made allegations like that, I worked with Sheriff Keene too. We did the same thing. We went out and went to NIC, the National Institute of Corrections, looked at all the standards, had them come into assessment on our staffing and stuff. I'm not going to work with 20 extra guys. I'm just not going to do it because I'm supposed to be physically responsible to everybody sitting in this audience and stuff. So we worked with the minimum that we needed to, based on our populations. But I tried to keep it as full as possible. If the numbers slid down a little bit, if I had 3 positions that were open, I wouldn't fill them until we started to fill the jail back up and just ebbed and flowed with our contracts and stuff. And that's what this man's a businessman. He would tell you the same thing. You keep your labor costs in line and stuff. Unfortunately, people that work in government, sometimes they got this endless supply of money and stuff, so they just, throw it out there, just like Jerome not wanting to spend money on this. It's not his money, it's your money and stuff, but he acts like that. And he just throws it at what he wants. And it's really unfortunate that it's treated that way. So our job is to keep our overall costs down to a minimum for every single taxpayer in Benton County. Yes, ma'am.
Let me ask you a real simple question in this week. What ultimately is your drive to stay in office?
That's a great question because I've had probably a couple hundred people ask me that question. Why are you paying $30,000? And I'll tell you, because of everybody sitting in this audience. 4 years ago or 2 years ago when I asked for your support and stuff, I promised, I committed that I would be here to serve you. And so if you would back me for this position, you guys did. I was put in that position, and I'm going to go through with my contract. At the end of those 4 years, you'll get to judge what I've done and what I haven't done. At that time, if there's a better sheriff out there, that's fantastic. But until then, I'm going to honor my part of the commitment. Okay. I hope that answers your question. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what is your strategy over the next couple of years for building unity in the sheriff?
Well, the biggest thing I did was actually go, in fact, if you pass this out, you're going to find this really humorous. So the undersheriff that I promoted and the lieutenant that I promoted came out of the guild, which I could have gone outside and hired you and her to fill those positions. I thought about it, but they bring her back out of retirement, but what that doesn't do is it doesn't create that lateral movement and the upward movement. It's that by me promoting those two, the trickle-down effect was 6 positions got moved or promoted within the guild. There's a letter that you'll see in my documents that was sent out by another guild person, and just the mere fact that they interviewed with me, they called them turncoats, they called them everything, they turned on them and stuff, and it spoke to the motivation of them. They're not interested in doing what's best for the department, they're interested in taking over the department, and they want me gone so they can put their sheriff in there and their administration, and they pretty much talk about that in there, and you'll see that's very alarming, and I should be